Hello guys, the thing I found while working with ecom business owners is that most of them have a very rudimentary or basic understanding of Google Ads. And that's not surprising, it's a whole other area and it's very confusing. But the problem is, as an e-commerce business owner, Google Ads is going to be one of your main strategies for getting sales. So there are some key things that you need to know and understand as the business owner. And in this video, I'm going to go through 4 of the key things that you need to know and understand that will help you drive or know whether the campaigns are working or not in your business and help you drive the consultants or the teams that are looking after it better. So let's get into it. Let's start with the most important one, and that is your return on ad spend. Now, I was with a client last week and we were having a meeting with their consultant who looks after their Google Ads. The client wasn't happy with the sales we were getting and the return on ad spend we were getting. So we wanted to see how we can improve things and what we can do to help do that. So really we were holding the consultant accountable. Now the consultant did what a lot of consultants do, is they'll start rattling off numbers and rattling off areas that they've improved. And what tends to happen as business owners is they don't really understand what they're looking at, so they don't know whether that's good or bad, or they don't know what questions to ask. So sometimes a consultant will get away with it because they'll just run rings around you because there's so much in Google Ads and there are so many stats that you need to look at that are important, but it's very easy to get confused. But in this scenario, we knew our return on ad spend wasn't good enough. So it didn't matter what he did at the other end and where he was maybe saving money or getting cost per clicks down or getting more bang for your buck. None of that matters if we're not getting the sales or the results. And that's what your return on ad spend will show you. So basically what return on ad spend is okay, if you've spent $100 on your ads and you've got sales from that of $200, that means your return on ad spend is 2. So you got 2 times. If you doubled your revenue or doubled your money, you put $100 in and you got $100 out. So that's your return on ad spend, 2. So that shows you exactly what that is. Now there is something that people need to be very careful of, which I'll get to in a second, and that's working out actually what your break even is on your return on ad spend. But ultimately, if I said to you, you give me $100, I'll give you back 200, that sounds like a very good deal. So that's a figure you want to look at. You'll constantly want to look to see if that is going up or down, and then adjusting that. But what you do need to know first from the return on ad spend is what your return on ad spend break even is. So let's go through and explain how you calculate that. Okay, so now let's look at some figures. So in this example, we spent $100 and we got $200 back. So our return on ad spend, or ROAS, so listen for people saying ROAS, that's what they normally say, is 2. So 2 times is our ROAS, which last time I looked at is the average on Google for a return on ad spend. But that's the whole thing, not just e-commerce. But that's 2. Now, most business owners would look at that and go, well, that's good. I've doubled my money. But that's a mistake, because what you've got to look at is what your gross profit margin is. Because you don't get to keep that whole $200. You've got to pay for your product, and you've got to pay for that product to be shipped to you and potentially to be shipped to the customer. So then whatever's left is your profit. So this is why you need to know what your gross profit margin is. So that's just what's money's left after paying your cost of your product and any shipping costs related to that. That's your margin. So for example, say you got $200 worth of sales, but your cost of sales, which is your product cost, might be $100, which then means your gross profits, the gross profit is just what's left after paying your cost of sales, and cost of sales is just the cost of the product and shipping related to that product. But your gross profit is $100, which in percentage terms, so your gross profit percentage is 50%. So that means of this $200 Google's just giving you, you only get to keep 50% of it. So guess what that is? That's $100. So that means your actual break even on return on ad spend in this example is 2. That's your break even. At that point, you're not making or losing any money. And that's off the first sale, of course. We're not taking into consideration future sales. Some businesses do lose money on the first transaction, but they've got a good repeat sales model, so they're happy, or not happy, but they accept that loss of getting that new customer because they'll know they'll make it on the back end. So that's the lifetime value of the customer. But it's important you know what your break even is. So here it's 2. So 2 is your break even. When we were dealing with the client we were talking about, we knew their ROAS was 2, and the campaign was running at 2 or 1.95, and it wasn't improving. So, and I said to the client, I went through this with the client, and I said, at the end of the day, you may as well turn it off and save all the bother at this level if you're not getting repeat sales. We are getting some repeat sales, so it's okay, but you wouldn't turn it off. But it's too low. It's too low. And so we went through and we were able to direct the consultant by saying, look, I like the improvements you're making elsewhere. It sounds good, but ultimately, if we're not getting the result, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. We have to get the result there, which means we have to increase our ROAS. So he went away, he's been working on it, and we're already up to 3.5. And a good ROAS would be 4 or 5. That will be very good for this business. Now, that your ROAS depends on your industry, depends where you're at. So do some research where your industry's at. But that's probably the most important stat you need to look at, is how much money you're creating to make sure that your campaign is profitable. Now let's go to the second most important number. The next figure I look at from an Google Ads point of view is hard dollars. In fact, all the remaining figures we look at are hard dollars. You want to look at the dollar amounts as well. So we've looked at return on ad spend. Now I look at cost per acquisition, or CPA. That tells you how much it's cost you to get the sale. So if you've got 10 sales and you've spent $1,000, that's a cost per acquisition of $100. Obviously, the lower you get that, that's your cost of getting a customer lower. And the biggest cost in an e-commerce business is getting customers, or one of the biggest costs is getting customers. So the more we can get that down, obviously the better and the more profit we will make. And automatically your ROAS will go up too. But you still want to look at this in hard dollars amounts. So you can then go back, and even this client, we worked out their cost per acquisition went right down to $11 at one point, but it sits around $20. We know what the average order value is. We know what the margin is on that order. So we know how much profit we're making on that order, and we know the actual dollar amount it's cost us. So you can do the maths to go, yes, we're making 20, 30, 40, $50 per sale, whatever it is. But that's why you need to know that. And it's not your job to reduce it. It's your job to get your consultant focused on that as well. Because if your consultant knows you're looking at those numbers and knows what numbers you're looking at, they'll do what's needed to improve that, which will be some of the other numbers they've talked about, and all some of the other things that they focus on will add to that, but they know you're looking at that. And I would just add as well is you need to be looking at these independently of your consultant. So you or one of your team members should be going in there each week and getting the results. I always have spreadsheets for my clients. So we have a Google Sheet set up, which has got your Google Ads campaign key stats. Key stats go in there each week, which includes cost per acquisition and return on ad spend, and some of the others as well that we're going to talk about today. But somebody's going in there each week, and as part of our weekly management meeting, we review those figures. So we know exactly what's going on independently from the consultant. Don't just wait for them to send you the reports at the end of the month, because they will send you reports. It will look neat and tidy, but it will probably be pages long. And as a business owner, you might not get to it, or you might not have time to review it properly, or they might be able to make things look better than they are. So that's why it's really important you have that there and you're monitoring these results. But first two, return on ad spend and cost per acquisition. Now let's get to the last two, which are hard dollar amounts. So the last two I would look at is your actual spend in dollar terms and your actual sales in dollar terms. So how much are you spending and how many dollars are coming in for sales? And you're just checking where that is. You've also then clear on, because you would or you should have a budget on what you should be spending. And so you want to make sure that's not changed and you're still in line with the budget, and a consultant hasn't come along and upped your budget without your consent, or got confused and done something that you didn't agree to. That's what I've seen that happen. It's happened quite often. I've seen a business nearly go bankrupt because of a mistake of how much they were spending on Google Ads, and it went for a few weeks, and we spotted it. We managed to stop it, but if they hadn't stopped it, if we haven't got in there and spotted it, the business was going to run out of cash because they were spending like crazy, and it messed everything up, and it was just a miscommunication. But if you're reviewing what you're actually spending each week, you know whether, okay, yep, that's what I'd expect to see. That's what's in our budget. And then you can say, okay, yep, let's see what revenue that's giving us. Yes, that makes sense. And you also want to kind of double check some of that and look in your own e-commerce store, whether that's Shopify or something else, and try and look at their stats. All people's stats are a bit off. Google's probably got the best, and Google Analytics is pretty good as well. Like Meta, don't even talk to me about Meta. Meta's analytics are pretty dodgy. They overinflate themselves quite a bit. Google's not so bad, but you do want to kind of double verify that. If Google's telling you've done 10 sales this week, have we done 10 sales on the site or not? So kind of double check it a little bit where you can, but you're looking at that hard dollar amount. Because if you've got a grasp on that, and you can see, okay, my return on ad spend is good. I'm getting a profit from that first sale, and I'm getting a healthy profit because it's above my break even. Also, I look at the dollar amount of how much it's costing me to get that customer, and I can see that cost is well below the profit I make. Then you're looking at your hard dollars as well as a total spend and total income, because this is where you can scale. And this is where you can go, okay, we're making good profit. Now I'm happy to invest a little bit more. So I've got another client where we're doing this, and each week we're monitoring it, and we're monitoring that return on ad spend, we're monitoring the cost per acquisition, we know the margins, we know all of that, and each week we review it, and then we up the budget. We just up the budget a little bit, like 10%, 5 to 10% each week or each fortnight, and allowing Google to start churning through that. And then we can watch to make sure we're still getting a return on ad spend and that we're still going in the right direction. And the sales are going up, happy days, of course, but we know we're making profit from that. And that's how you do it. You can scale it up. Don't go quick because you'll break it. And at some point, there will be a diminishing return on your investment. So you'll reach the peak. And I won't go into details about what that is, or the other things you need to look at, because there is a much deeper level to all of this. Obviously, I'm doing this so that you as a business owner know what to look at. You don't necessarily need to go out and learn this whole thing. You do, I think, need a specialist to help you, but you need to be aware of these key numbers so you can hold them accountable. And that's it. You know those 4 numbers, you monitor them regularly, you hold your consultant accountable for that, change your consultant if you need to, if they're not producing those results, and you could be successful. I hope you found that useful, and I hope you use that now to manage and drive your Google Ads campaigns further forward too. If you've got any questions, please leave a comment below, or You can reach out to me via my site. Check it out. I can help you out. One-on-one coaching. So I can help you out with there. And if you like this video, there's plenty more like this on the channel. Like, subscribe, all of that stuff. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Cheers, guys.